Shouts out Big Steve.
Shout out Michael Bisping. Shout out the viewers. Quick recap. Let's get it. UFC 318. Did I make money on the UFC and the weekend? Yes, I did. I just noticed I've been losing a lot of UFCs this past month or so, but I've been killing regionals. So I said, let's make some money in the UFC, and we did. I made just the tiniest little bit under 2 units, right under 1,200. And honestly, I'm not too happy. It should have been much better. In the hindsight of things, it should have been much, much better. It felt like back-to-back weekends of really easy reads for the UFC. But let's unwrap it. Let's quickly get into it. I'm not going to promise I'm going to do another early tease, but let's see how quick the show is going to be. So let's do a recap of the regionals of the UFC, and we'll go through the positives and negatives, and we'll move on. Right, so where do we start? Let's start with the boxing because, some people might not give a shit. There was a few fights that as you know, I'm just into boxing now as well because there's been some good locks. There's a few fights I tried to tape. Manny Pacquiao Barrios, Usyk Dubois #2, Zhu versus Fedora rematch, and then there was a couple other fights that were on the undercard of these main events. There was like 3 cards, Kafu and one more dude. And ultimately, I just felt like I started running out of time, and I was like, I can't tape these unknown boxes. I'm gonna just stick to the main events, and I just opted for Manny Pacquiao and Barrios, and I opted for Barrios, $1.45 to be my lock. Mark Schillingberg, I can't hear you. Is it my phone or are you on mute? I don't think I'm on mute. Am I on mute? No, I don't. I definitely don't think I'm on mute, Mark. Gonna be my friend. So that's the bet. And 46-year-old Manny, coming back from retirement, blah blah blah, hasn't fought in years. Last proper boxing bet at in 2021, he lost. This felt like the Mike Tyson fight, and I only had like a unit and a bit on Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson. I was scared of robberies, and that ended up to be a generational wealth opportunity. And here, I thought the same thing. I thought Manny Pacquiao, he's one of the most beloved, and there was some noise, and there was a lot of money coming on Pacquiao, but there was a lot of money coming on Tyson. So I'm like, I don't give a shit. I'm an experienced better. I'm going to try and get past the noise. And honestly, I just left a bit more than a unit, $750 to win half a unit, 300, because it was worse than minus 200. I was hoping we'd get to minus 200. And honestly, watching that, it was right before the co-main event in the UFC. And I'm like, man, this must be the corruption that everyone's talking about. Everyone's been talking how corrupt boxing is. I've had maybe like 7 or 8 bets in a row where I just didn't feel any corruption, and I'm just like, this is easy. But halfway through this fight, I taped Barrios, I taped Manny Pacquiao, and I'm like, this is what a proper fix looks like, right? This is a fix. Like, I expected the first few rounds to be cagey, because Barrios can be a slow starter. Obviously, he's not the fastest, not the best footwork. While fresh, Manny's still one of the GOATs. But for an old man, he had cramps back in 2021. He can't move anymore. For Barrios just to do nothing, to have no movement, to not focus on his jab, just to be frozen in there, and the commentators to be glazing Manny, I was like, nah, this is a fix. This is a fix, and I'm going to lose my money. So I hedged a little bit on Pacquiao. He was like $8 at one point, but it dropped down to $4. So I'm like, shit, would have been an easier hedge. And I stopped watching, and I checked at the end, and I'm like, I lost like $400. This is definitely a losing bet. And they gave it a draw. But you know what? I'm glad. In my opinion, that's the biggest fix. I'm glad that they fixed it for Pacquiao to be a draw than for Pacquiao to win the belt, because yeah, got my money back, but that really left a sour taste in my mouth. But yeah, other than that, the only regret is I wanted to bet this Fedora versus Zhu. One of my boys, Mario Sandfield, right? I've invited him on the show a couple of times. He's a sharp guy from England, but he refuses, which is fair enough. It's not for everyone. He said Fedora was a good play, and I thought about it. I picked him. I kind of liked Tim and then Fedora. I wish I taped that one better. And I liked one knockdown in Usyk Dubois, right? It was a bit worse priced than the lock that I thought was last week. Belanga versus Shares. It was dollar 40. And I essentially talked myself out of it. The first time Usyk dropped him twice, but generally Usyk doesn't have many knockdowns. Even against Fury, when he hurt him, didn't count as a knockdown. And he's never been knocked down himself in his pro career. So it's like I'm kind of banking on one guy to get all the knockdowns at a really chalky price. And I mean, end of the day, I favored the under 10.5 rounds. I thought knockdown was safer, so I should have played it. But it is what it is. Boxing this today, nothing. Push. My only bet was a push. I'm going to take that as a win, right? I didn't lose $750 on a fixed fight. So we go to PFL Africa. Barely, this is the one that took a hit in terms of not having time to tape. I had a brutal week. I fasted for 3 days. I lost 4 kilos. I was just couldn't focus much. And, I was like, I'm just going to focus on the main card. There's totals. And this is where some shit happened, right? So last week I didn't, or 2 weeks ago, I bet an ACA bet. The only bet, a pick'em, it won. And there was that glitch with Bet Online where it didn't count my bet. This week, I was using some weird paperhead book. Not paperhead, just a weird book that it's from, I don't know, some weird country. Really low limits. And I thought I was betting in under 1.5 rounds on Dakota Ditcheva, but turns out it was half a round. And, I couldn't cash out. I couldn't add any more because of the limits, some weird shit. And I was just looking for someone to hedge me. I had $300 on it. I'm like, she isn't going to get this finish in under half a round. If you look at her finishes, they're all second half of round 1 or over. I'm like, this is a donation, it's $300, whatever. But it's just like when you bet like me, when, you need as much profit week to week, when you pay your bills with it, when you're trying to build up a bankroll so you can bet freely again, donating $300, just like throwing it away it was annoying. And I couldn't find anyone to hedge me. So I'm like, cool, I'm going to wake up to $300 loss on Dakota Ditcheva. And I hope that I can make up some money for that because it's going to piss me off. I didn't really like anything. Didn't really bother taping the prelims. I taped a few fights and they were like EFC fights. And I'm like, fuck this shit. I'm not taping EFC at midnight on a Saturday night. Basically, Corey Anderson was a dog or pass. I liked the under. I thought maybe Goltsov could finish him or submit him. Props to Corey. I didn't really expect the ground and pound finish by him, but he did it. I like the over in this Russian fight. Wasn't brave enough. Couldn't be bothered going deep enough. AJ McKee. I contemplated Ahmed Magomedov. I'm glad I passed. I like the under 1.5 in Dakota because it was so juiced. I passed. And honestly, I thought about Castellantinas, but I passed. So nothing really there other than losing $300 on the stupid bet, which whatever. I try to stay positive, right? So now we move on to generally my favorite card, my favorite organization, KSW, right? This looked awful for betting. And man, last few cards have looked awful for betting, but they always come through, right? We just need one bet. But let me address the comments. We got some comments in here. It might be really late for some. Wade, Barrio Scenes, he swept rounds 10 to 12 on all cards. That means judges had Pac-Man 3 to 6-3. Yeah, the commentators were glazing Pac-Man. I knew. Yeah, I just turned it off. I knew. I agree with Wade. Chill out. There's a lot of money to be made on boxing. You just have to be selective. Dogfather, boxing, weirdness happens, of course. Mate, lads, how much weirdness happens in MMA? We complain about it every week, and we deal with it every week, and we bet it every week. It's the same shit. Honestly, in my opinion, as a boxing casual, betting all last year and now this year, there's a lot less weird shit in boxing. That's just me. That's just me. Morel decision was the last straw. Yeah, it is what it is, man. What else? Mark. Sorry, mate. It was my phone. I'm glad you fixed it. Six Hound. Excited for Steve to discuss the true pound for pound Peter Yan. Mate, you're not going to like what I have to say about Yan. Good job, Mark. Keep building that bankroll. So, yeah, this, again, I always say I'm going to focus on KSW, even if it looks shit. Basically, I like this Carroll, whatever the hell his name is. It was Pick'em, stuck out straight away. I left it. I'm like, oh, maybe I'm just, I'm not really good with Pick'em fights. Maybe I'm imagining. I retaped it, and I was like, oh, the classic case of going too deep, overtaping it. And I was like, maybe this should be Pick'em, but I'm like, fuck it. I got to stick with my initial lean. It's generally right more often than not. It ended up being a 1-1 going to the third. He knocks him out in the 3. I thought he was the more physical guy. There was no pro fights, which is rare for me. I couldn't get any tape on his pro wins, but it was, his amateurs was enough for me. So I won like $240 there, and didn't even tape this squash match. I was gonna fade Kaziesko with Coretta. Glad I didn't. Would have lost that. David Kuzmarski, this was chalky. He won a split. I was going to tail Dogfather on it. He's younger. He's 22. The other guy's a bum. He won a split. If I played it, probably would have lost. Sheffield Martinek, I wasn't interested in this fight. Ended by injury. Typical. Adrian, I liked Adrian, man. I wanted to fade this Adam guy twice in his debut. And in his debut, he got dropped twice by this kid. Then he submits him. In his second fight, he gets dropped with leg kicks. Then he gets an omoplata. And I'm like, man, Adrian is 38 years of age. He's chinny, but he's been like submitted like once in his entire career. This Adam guy is a sub or bust. But, on tape, Adrian is just really easy to take down with a double leg. So I was like, I don't know. I don't want to bet on these wash guys. Adrian gets a KO. Props to him. So here's what it is. And this, Marcin was not on my radar at all. And then I just wiki capped, and I watched Ibrahim Chazgia versus Narkun, who's washed. And that was a competitive fight. Narkun had his back, almost had a rear naked choke. And I just had this gut feeling like, when you don't expect to like a bet at all, but you tape it, and then it just jumps out. And I just never circled back to it. And props to anyone that took Marcin. I know my boy NTT took it, and whoever else. And Adam Soldaev, Leo Bridgestart. I don't have any regrets with this one. Dogfather bet Soldaev, a couple others did. I taped it, and I'm like, I don't see much of an edge here. I didn't really expect Soldaev to KO him. I bet him a couple times. I know his game well. He gassed out on me a few times before. So Leo's a big boy. They're both young, but props to anyone. So I won like $400 and something there. I got the Carroll, and then I bet some couple of totals on that same shitty bookie. So pretty much just broke even because of that stupid $300 bet on PFL. So now where are we at? Now we're here for the UFC. This is what we're all here for. So this one right here, when I did my 2 podcasts, I already had massive, a bunch of players. I had 2 units of Kali Jadis, and this one, I'm glad that my gut was firing because there was straight away people were like, looked at that fight. It's looking bad. I wouldn't bet it. Kind of reminded me of Tafa. Everyone was shitting on my Tafa bet, and props there. They were right about it. But this one, I stuck my ground. I'm like, Kali Jadis, this is a levels fight. Nicole Cagliari, she might be cut in a couple of fights. Everything was right. Kali lit her up from the first minute to the second. Only one of these girls was a lower level woman, and that's Nicole Cagliari. Kali Jadis now has 2 wins in the UFC. She's very good, man. We're going to see a lot from her. She has get-ups. She has offensive wrestling herself. She's hittable, but insane chin. And the other thing is maybe her cardio. Like, she's blowing out of her mouth like quite soon in fights. But she kind of pushes through. So this chick's got a future. Usually Dana White, when he does shit like sign people off losses or, signing Jose Medina, it doesn't work out. But man, signing Kali Jadis off a loss, like, she obviously has a higher potential than Anesta Karatskaya, in my opinion. So he did well there. Like, Kali's gonna have a future in, this is flyweight, right? So good on him. I like the under 2, but I didn't poke it. I felt like he was Kali Jadis, eradicated, and nice knee at the end. Props to anyone to hit that. Dogfather, let's go Kali. I gotta give Dog props. He mentioned it. I looked into it, and I'm like, fuck it. She's not gonna lose, so I just played it. Usually I wouldn't lock in $1.40, but I had to be aggressive. 6 round, Kali's who the Cheva thinks she is. Take notes, Dakota. That's right. Kali versus Dakota, pick and fight. All right, let's move on. That's a joke, by the way. So this is one right here. Bruno Ferreira, $1.40 under 1.5 rounds. Man, this went up to -200, and I was like, I was gonna play this. I already have the Ryan under 1.5. I said I was going to play Jimmy Crute, 1 takedown. I already had the Islam Dulatov under 1.5. So what I did was, this is what I did back in the day. I said I was going to parlay a bunch of locks, and the original plan was parlay the Bruno Ferreira under 1.5 and Ryan Spann, right? Because I thought he could win in under 1.5 rounds, and I also thought he could win a decision because Lucas Bresky is just so bad. And I just got carried away. I ended up parlaying the Bruno under, and then the Ryan Spann, and then I added Jimmy Crute, and then I added Dan Ige, and then I added Holland. And I was like, fuck it, this is hitting. this. I have to. I used to make full card parlays all the time, or like four or five, and they generally hit. I was like, fuck it, half a unit, 300, 2 in 2 units, 1,200. I'm like, this is hitting. And the biggest mistake I made this weekend, which is why I'm kind of tilted, is I didn't bet every single one of those fights as singles. So I should have bet Bruno Ferreira under 1.5 rounds as a single. Should have maybe bet, I don't know about Ryan Spann, but Ryan Spann, I already had the under 1.5. I could have just left it, or maybe parlayed his money line with someone else, because when he made 250 and he looked jacked and Bresky looked like a bag of milk, I'm like, this guy's not winning. So Bruno Ferreira won round one. Honestly, I predicted a round one ground and pound, but he went for an armbar. So, yeah, I mean, I felt like a lot of people were going to get burned or playing Bruno round one KO. He has good submissions, Bruno. That's 2 back-to-back armbars. So I was like, whatever, parlay goes on. Then Ryan takes down Bresky. I'm like, don't do this. It kind of gave me the Bogdan Guskov vibes, where he took down Bogdan Guskov, burnt the clock, couldn't submit him. Luckily, Bresky ended up in that guillotine. Otherwise, I don't think Ryan Spann would have submitted him any other way. So that under hit. Then the Jimmy Crute, hits as part of the parlay. But again, I should have played Jimmy Crute. I said I like the under. I said I like his insider distance. That should have been a unit. But whatever, the parlay goes on. Islam Dulatov, I had like 1,700 on the under. I posted it on Twitter, but I said I'm definitely reducing this. Like, I had Pick'em. I capped it at minus 200 conservatively, but I'm like, this is the one where, it could look massive value if Islam goes rabies. But if he doesn't, then it kind of takes away from Adam Fukit's finishing upside. Adam has finishing upside. If Islam goes crazy, abandon his defense, is a bit hittable. But if he's patient, Adam's going to be patient as well, because he's chinny. He knows he's chinny, and he likes to extend the fight. And honestly, it looked like he was going. He was going over and, killed him with less than a minute to go in round one. If that shit went into round two, I would have pretty much chalked it as a loss. So that's right, that hit. I'm up 1,600. But I'm thinking to myself, something's going to bust my parlay. I should have bet the Jimmy Crute, and I should have bet Bruno Ferreira under. I don't like that, a big day is, everyone is hitting all these obvious plays, and I haven't cashed anything because I still have Dan Ige and Holland. So I'm like, damn, I don't know what I'm doing. And then Atiba Goiti, I said, I kind of like this under because, Atiba's going to win. If it's going to be under, Robert Valentin also, I think he has some finishing upside. And the only reason I didn't play Robert as a massive underdog is because he's an idiot. He's an idiot. And I thought he was going to be a bit more patient here. His UFC job's on the line. And I thought that might kind of kill the under. And I don't want to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 unders in a row. Right? What are the chances that hits? It happened last week, and it's going to happen this week. And wow, he gets hit once, Robert Valentin. First of all, he throws 3 switch knees to start the fight. Robert Valentin. Bro, throw a jab. Throw a teep. They're giving you this Francis Ngannou wannabe, and you're measuring the distance with a naked flying knee 3 times back to back. I'm like, this guy deserves to be knocked out. He gets countered, he gets hurt, and then he doesn't clinch. He doesn't go for a takedown. Atiba Goiti just strolling, just like walking slowly towards him, right? This is why I was scared about the under. He's not very, like, his contender series went over. And he doesn't really have any get up. So if Valentin took him down for a second, it could have completely burnt the whole round. But no engaging in the clinch, no grappling, no trying to survive, just backing up against the cage, taunting, and just getting lit up. So I feel bad for anyone that played Robert Valentin, but then again, I don't, because if you watch the tape, this guy's an idiot. This guy doesn't learn from his mistakes. In the grappling against Torres Finney, he almost won that fight. He won round 3 clear. And he threw a flying tomahawk elbow and got taken down in round 3 when he was actually starting to land on Finney. Flying tomahawk elbow. He's an idiot. Also, it's the UFC's fault, because you got this guy that's coming off Ultimate Fighter. He felt like he had, what's that guy's name? Is it Hill? That black dude that landed a spinning wheel kick. The loss to Gastelum. He felt like his kind of aura. He's finishing everyone on Ultimate Fighter. And they just give him tough matchup after tough matchup, and they might cut him now. Like, he had some aura. They should have given him easy wins in the UFC. But anyway, nothing there, but I did feel kind of salty that I didn't bet the under. Nikolai versus Prado. I completely hated this fight. I hated the dog. I hated the favorite. people played the over. I hated the over too at chalk. I mean, it should have finished multiple times in round one. Nikolai slams Prado on his head. How many times have we seen that end via KO? Just recently, Reese and Solecki both got knocked out on the same card. And then I remember Mowgli picking up that Banderas, Enrique Banderas, the Peruvian guy, and slamming him the same way. Like, and I can think of like two more, but I just can't remember the fighters off the top of my head. And Prado, I think Prado took one of the worst slams, and he just it looked like his neck was going to break. And then he took some ground and pound and still survived. So, props to everyone that cashed that total or, Nikolai decision. But, man, this whole fight seemed like a red flag all around the place. And it looked like Nikolai was actually going to fluff it and lose the fight after, almost murdering Prado. So Prado might be cut. Good riddance. And Nikolai will be faded. Brandon Allen, Vettori, I mean, if Vettori wasn't so washed and so slim margins, I honestly would have played him here. But, yeah, I just thought Allen has all the potential. Allen should be the favorite, and he has the potential to cover, but he just rarely does. Props to him. For once in his life, he covered. He got a 30-27 over one of the better guys. I reckon Chris Curtis would knock out this current version of Marlon Vettori. He would beat the shit out of him. So, nothing there. Vinicius Oliveira, I said, honestly, I would rather play Oliveira at this price now than Carla Phillips. A lot of money came in on Phillips. Just not a trustworthy guy, I left it to live bet. Live bet was disgusting, but I should have played it anyway just because it didn't look like Phillips was going to come back after how high-paced the round one was. It is what it is. All right, so I finally have a bet since Dulatov. I'm up 1,500. I got 1,200 more waiting in my parlays. I just need Ige and Holland. And I'm like, you know what? The only other good read that I have is Zellhuber's going to finish Michael Johnson 2-3. And, it's probably going to be competitive round one. Nothing's going to be landed. Michael Johnson's probably going to land on him a bit. But, Zellhuber has a good chin. He gets aggressive. Johnson eventually gets cracked. He's almost knocked out by Malaki. And he's going to swarm him. He's going to swamp him. He's going to break him. He's going to knock him out, He almost knocked out Venata. He beat the shit out of Prado. He finished, Giagos. And some of the damage that Ribovic ate, there's no way Johnson survives. And then Zellhuber, shows what he showed against Ogden. I gave him a benefit of the doubt there, but this kid, I don't know, this kid, it seems to be an issue. That should not be forgotten. The way this kid fights, yeah, there's something there. Also, there's something wrong. Like, Eric Nixick should really be ashamed because I didn't like his urgency in the corner, and it really didn't seem bothered by the fact that Daniel Zellhuber was losing that fight. So I lost $400 there. I played 300 on the under and 100 on the doesn't go in case Zellhuber got it done really late. That bothered me. And then Ige versus Pitbull. Look, I thought these guys are the same. And I thought Pitbull is smaller, way worse durability. You could argue similar power, but, smaller, older, gassier, chinnier, and people shit on Ige, but, he can be taken down, he can make mistakes, he can be low volume, but he gets big moments. He's almost knocking out, Lerone Murphy, he's knocking out Philly, he's having really close fights with Bryce Mitchell, competitive fights back and forth, Josh Emmett, whatever, like he's fighting these good guys. He's knocking out Shot Woodson, which he was winning that fight too. It just felt like it's going to be a slim margins win by Patricio Pitbull, where he doesn't get hurt, doesn't get knocked out, and just slimmest of margins. And man, I didn't understand what I watched. I didn't understand. Like, I'm not a big Ige guy. I hate the guy. It's really hard for me to play him. I only played him versus Woodson, and that's about it. I know people played him. I know people that played him against Murphy. I know people that played him against Diego Lopez. Right? I can't do it. But I'm like, he's got people covered, and he just stared at him. He just stared at him for the entire round one. And I'm like, man, Ige has more volume than this. What's going on here? Is this the Eric Nixick syndrome? And then, round two, he starts a bit better and he's lighting him up. I'm like, that's more like it. Like, Pitbull literally is doing nothing. He's just eating this volume. And then Ige gets countered and he gets hurt. And it's like, wow. Out of all the punches that Ige has thrown, Pitbull is the one that hurts him. So now he's 2-0, and then Ige hurts him round three, and it's like, I knew this. I knew that I was going to be up 1,500. I'm already over 2 units. And then I pass on all these, locks. Bruno under, the Crute and under, the Goitier under, Vincius Oliveira. The only bet that I actually hit Zellhuber is a dud. And then I got nothing to show for it because my parlay gets busted with Ige. So now I've lost, 300 on that and Zellhuber 400. So from 1,500 to 800 bucks, barely over a unit. And just like everyone's cashing, all the casuals are cashing because it's so easy. How often do these cards come along that are so easy to predict and you can put big money on it and they still have value and you're cashing? And I was just like, I was pissed. I was tilted. And whatever. Ige loses, I'm like, whatever. The only saving grace is that I didn't go an actual unit on Ige and that I didn't play the under 2.5, which I liked. Then comes Kevin Holland versus Daniel Rodriguez, and I'm like, man, do I parlay Holland? I gotta chase with someone. But honestly, this didn't feel like Luke. I was like, Kevin Holland generally beats washed welterweights, but I'm like, I can't do it here. The line is gone far beyond. He's inside the distance is way too chalky. I'm like, I can't do it. I gotta exercise some sort of good gambling. I'm not down. I'm not chasing. I'm still $800 up. I'm not gonna do it. And watching that fight made me feel better. It made me feel better. I wasn't really upset at Ige. Ige didn't bust my parlay. Like, it would have been worse if Ige won and Holland busted my parlay. But I actually would have hedged it. I would have made sure, last parlay leg. But yeah, that made me happy. That made me happy that Rodriguez won. I like Rodriguez. Obviously, I don't know too many people that were on Holland of my friends, so I wasn't really rooting against any of my friends. But yeah, a lot of money came in on Holland, man. So a couple of upsets back to back to back. So yeah, but still $800 down. Now, around this time, Paulo Costa, my boy Pepe, my boy Dog, they collabed. And I was like, man, last time I was on the Choa with him, but I wasn't on the other play. And I was like, fuck, I gotta collab with on Paulo Costa. I love Paulo Costa. I used to bet him against everyone. Massive bet against Uriah. Massive bet against washed Jimi Hendrix or Johnny Hendrix. But he's just shown to be a bit of a head case. So I'm like, I have to get on here. And then I'm like, I can't do it. He's a head case. And then I watched Roman Coppola versus Cesar Almeida. And I remember I bet Cesar Almeida. And that was a split decision. And right away, I'm like, that's enough for me because Roman won't be able to get out by wrestling Paulo Costa. And if he does, Paulo will work his way up. So I'm like, that alone should make it a competitive fight. And Costa looked good at the weigh-ins. He looked good at the press conference. He made weight. I liked his positivity. He looked like he was taking it seriously. But I didn't do it. I didn't do it because around this time was when Pacquiao was fighting Barrios. And it was around the 7 round mark. And it was when I realized the fight was fixed. And I was just pissed off. And I thought I was going to lose another $400 because I hedged it. I would have been 7, but I hedged it live. So I'm like, I'm up 1,500. I missed out on a bunch of winning bets. I crashed my parlay, and I'm going to lose another 400. And funny story. When I left the house, I went to my friend's house to watch the pay-per-view. When I left the house, I was up 1,500. I hit Span, I hit Judice, and then I hit the Jimmy Crute parlay legs, and it was all looking like a 2-point-something K day. And I tell my misso, I'm up 1.5K. She's like, don't lose it all. I was like, don't worry, baby. All I have is a parlay, $300 parlay for a big day. Even if that loses, I'll still be up 1,200. So don't stress. I won't lose it all. And it, after that, after Zellhuber and after it looked like Pacquiao was going to win, I was going to come back home with $400. So because of all that, I didn't want to bet Paulo Costa. I was just not in the mood. I'm like, fuck this. I'm just going to live bet Paulo Costa. Same thing as Vincius Oliveira. And he just, Costa wins round 1 dominantly, live, completely gone. Props to the boys that played Costa. And yeah, I just lost the split to Cesar Almeida, but I wasn't there with my boy Paulo. And then we get to the main event. At this point, Pacquiao finishes. I get my money back. I'm kind of happy. I'm like, whatever. I still got $800. It's better than nothing. Profit is profit. I move on. And I got Max Holloway, and he wins round 1. I'm like, no live bet here again. But then he gets hurt at the end of round 2. And then after round 3, where I thought it was clear Holloway and it was 2-1, I'm like, fuck it. It's 2-1. Max Holloway's winning majority of this fight. He's probably going to win 4 and 5. So I put like $300, half a unit to win 150 on Max Holloway. It was minus 200. It felt a little bit square, but after that, the line just got steamed even more. So I'm happy with that. So that got me to $1,000 profit. So 1,118. Right. Let's go through the monthly recap. So after the unit change on PFL, man, I had a really good weekend last week, with the boxing and the Cage Warriors and whatnot. And then should have really profited on bloody UFC Nashville, but that was all junior tough, a bad bet. And then this PFL Africa, right? So obviously lost 300 on that donation on under half a round in Dakota. Push on the boxing, so yeah, almost a unit on KSW and $1,000 in the UFC. So 1,180, almost 1,200, 2 full units. It is what it is. It's what are we on? 3,500. And if you see here, for half a year, after 6 months, I made 5,000, 10 units. So I've almost made 10 units in this 1 month of July. So I'm not glazing myself. I'm just happy things are changing, right? Because for the last 6 months, it felt like I was pulling out my teeth, just every week trying to look for profit, taping, can't confidently place anything. Can't put 2 units or more on anything. 500 units, struggling. Everything I bet multiple units on, it loses. And even junior tougher last week. So now I just decided to get more aggressive, and things are working out. I upped my units to $600, and not because my bankroll is growing or anything. It's like they probably should still be smaller than $600 realistically, but I just it was easier for an exchange with Australian and US dollars, and it's working out. It's working out. More aggressive. It is what it is. I'm feeling confident. Boxing is going well. I'm not touching any fucking shit like Pacquiao Barrios anymore. And yeah, I'm happy. Even if I don't get the 5K mark next week, I just need 1,500. Even if I don't get it and match my yearly profit up to July, doesn't matter. It's still an amazing month. It's still the best month, and I'm good. The reads are good. Everything is good. I was feeling a little bit burnt out, and I was nervous about my bets, but it's all working out. Got to avoid the slump. All right, lads, I'm going to go through the comments. Let me know if you have any questions. I might look at the card a little bit, but it's already 30 minutes, so no promises, but I'm going to look at the comments now, and I might kick it. MMA guy, Judas round 3. Props to you, mate. Props to you. I just didn't want to donate any of my Judy's profits on totals, because the Brazilian chick is tough. She's tough. I mean, it was a liver shot. I don't know if she would have knocked her out if it wasn't a liver shot. 6 Sound, hilarious how Bresky was the one guy to beat Walter. Yeah, but that was bullshit, man. That was Walker being out of shape. And because of that, we had Walker at Pick'em versus Tafa after that when he came in 30 pounds lighter. So this is like, if you're not a casual in MMA and you actually go further than just taping fights, you can get recency value and whatnot. I'm not here with boxing yet. I don't really know, what happened with boxing. I didn't know that Tim Tszyu was going to be that washed, but maybe if I was a hardcore like I am in MMA, I would have known this. Mark, hit 4 fights in a row, first round finish, all played straight and parlayed. Nice, Mark. He was one of those cards. Are we going to get that anytime soon? I don't know. We got it last week as well, so that's why I'm annoyed. The profit should have been much better. Wasn't the highest display of IQ on this card. Honestly, considering we had Ryan Spann on this card, Ryan Spann, Paulo Costa, Kevin Holland, Dan Ige, Brandon Allen, Robert Valentine, Jimmy Crute, the IQ could have been a lot worse. Honestly, Nikolai and Francisco Prado alone combined, that we'll never see worse IQ in one fight with 2 fighters for a long time. That shit was brutal. Hilarious fight though. 6 Sound, surprised to see people hurt Ige so bad. I'm not, man. People is one of the hardest hitters in the world. Like when people were telling me last week, you should just play the Ige KO instead of the under. I was like, nah, there's a little bit of KO upside there for people. The guy cracks. Mark, live bets were flowing tonight. Veretnico, Johnson, Vinny, Pitbull, all cash. Yeah, props to you. I mean, some of those were gone quickly, so me having to call up from Australia, then I couldn't really jump on him. But another live spot was on Kev. Who the hell is Kev? Kev. No idea, man. Kevin Phillips? Kyler Phillips? Oh, Kevin Holland. Mark, you're doing great. I'm striving to get to numbers like that. Enjoy your pod and love following. Thanks, mate. Look, I am doing all right. Considering I started in a negative in January and February, and life is, with marriage and the kid on the way, I can't grind like these kids can anymore. So as soon as I get to 10,000, that's going to be relief. That's going to be 20 units, and that's going to feel like that's a good year. I've salvaged the year, and then after that, anything else is a bonus. Maybe we get to 30 units. Maybe I up my units to 800, 1,000. So, but fuck it. Let's see what the odds are. Let's see what we have this week. I'll do a quick little early tease, and then we'll get out of here. All right, we've got EU Warriors. Wow, this is early in the week. 2 EU Warriors, Wednesday and Thursday, and then we got Abu Dhabi. I like this. So the only reason I'm doing this AU Warriors because there's some good names on here. Al Kwasi, he was in the UFC. I love fighting that guy. Asu Chupo, this is a good fight. Saldana was in LFA. Pena, Kevin Omar, Machado. The return of the GOAT Machado from the UFC. That's a good one. Kuzriev, Madeira, Omar and Shaban, right? This guy's good. This guy's UFC level. He was on Tough. Evgeny Morozov, this Russian guy that's representing Serbia. Well, nothing Serbian about him. Ronnie Marks, Adana Silva, Kanaka Murata. A lot of UFC fighters on this card. I'm excited about the odds. We'll see what the odds release. And then the Thursday card. What do we got on the Thursday card? James Lontop, old mate, also from the UFC. Felipe Douglas, I know him from LFA. Bruno Zareta. Fujita, I know him. These names are not as recognizable. Got a lot of foreigners on here. Wow, Shana Young versus Amina Hedaya. I know Hedaya, she's Aussie. Interesting. Yeah, so the first card is a lot more interesting, but we'll see how we go. Let's see what we have on the UFC. Budai versus Buchecha. This is the first fight I'm going to look into, right? Buchecha, GOAT. You could argue the GOAT heavyweight guy in the gi. They gave him some bums. He beat a bunch of bums in ONE FC. He lost to Omar Kane. Not a bad look, honestly, because Omar Kane beat that roided up Russian. And he's going to be very green, right? He's very new to MMA. Would have gone in there with no striking or anything. So minus 200 against Budai. I know Budai's a black belt, but stylistically, it is these heavyweights that are built like barrels. They're not good off their back. They're not going to hit omoplata. So I'm going to look at this Shamil Gaziev fight. Obviously, he was taken down there, so we'll have a look. I'll look into that one first. Mohamed Yahya, Stephen Wynn. Wow. I remember when we faded Stephen Wynn with who's that Holland guy, Dutch guy. He was paying like $3.50. He beat the shit out of him. And then they cut him after losing to Zalal. Fade Yahya at any cost. Fade Yahya. Well, let's see what the odds are. I didn't mean this to turn into an early tease, but I don't know if I'll do a show tomorrow because I'm just flat out. I've been grinding a lot. Yeah, shit ain't worth it. Do we even have the Yahya fight? Not yet. Not yet. But yes, I do want to fade him. Ibo Aslan, big favorite here over Billy. I mean, Billy should die here. Right, Billy was guillotined by Bogdan Guskov of all people. Wow. But Bogdan almost knocked him out before that. So Ibo should really rabies him. Amanda Nunes, Tabitha Ricci. This is an interesting fight. What are the odds? Well, Reba's favorite. Not sure I'm rushing to play that. Damon Blackshear, Davy Grant. What's that? Oh, yeah, that's right. Blackshear's a favorite. Look, Davy Grant's an OG, but he's getting up there. He's getting up there when it comes to washed or age. Has he lost one recently? Ramon Tavares. Oh, yeah, that was a good one. Fuck, he basically won every minute of that fight. Yeah, he's still got it in him, man. He's still got it in him. He submitted a black belt, multiple damn black belt, Rafael Assunção with an inverted triangle. Put him out cold. Interesting fight, man. Interesting fight. Muslim Salico, Carlos Leal. Man, this is lamb to the slaughter. Wow. Lamb to the slaughter. Let me see. Muslim has won 2 fights back to back. You know, Ponzinibbio and Kenan Song. Good on him. He's not done yet, but he will be done after this. He might go to the emergency room and never come out. Honestly. Bryce Mitchell dropping down against Saeed. Interesting fight. Where's that line at? A lot of money coming in on Mitchell, trending towards Pick'em. Nikita Krylov, Bogdan Guskov. I've got a lad, Bilal, in the suit, you know, telling me how much he loves Krylov minus 200 or a little bit better. You know, I'm not passionate about it, but look, I might look into it because he's very passionate. I get the read, you know, but everyone loves calling Guskov a fraud. I get it. We'll look into it. I'm not going to rush anything. I'm aiming for minimum 2 units on the UFC again. Astro Mabayev, Jose Ochoa. As I said, I was on Ochoa last time. I wish I went bigger, man. That seemed, again, there was a lot of noise, you know, minus 200 unproven against Cody Durden, but, you know, the gut was just saying he's winning no matter what. But this Asu Mabayev, much different fight. It's Pick'em. So, yeah, Asu losing to Carp means nothing, man. It's a good fight. We'll look into that one. Shara Magomedov, I mean, he should really be a washed Barriol. You know, Barriol's going to pressure forward. He's going to clinch him up. He's 35. His chin's going a little bit. We didn't really see it in the Bruno fight, but it's definitely going. But he went to split with Chris Curtis, so maybe this could be a punchy-kicky split decision. Peter Yan, Marcus McGee. Honestly, Marcus McGee or pass. Right? I know everyone's going to glaze Peter Yan, but the guy's getting up there in age. And yes, I love Marcus McGee. I had when my units were still big, I had 2 units on Marcus McGee over Jonathan Martinez. He was cruising until he made that sweaty in round 3. He got hurt by leg kicks. And Peter Yan, I mean, he blew his knee out against Song Yadong, still won, but he's not the same guy, man. What is he, 36? 32, wow. It's just not the same guy. I mean, you can't really parlay against a high-level fighter. And Robert Whittaker, Reina the Reader. I don't really get this. I don't really have a good read on this fight. Maybe someone can fill me in. Like, you know, Robert killed Iskram, who was on extremely short notice. Ikram, pardon me. Ikram might be chinny, you know. He's been deaded by Khamzat Cole as well, and every punch that he landed seemed to just really bother him. So that's just how I feel about him. And I'm not really willing to rule out Rene the Reader. I think he's one of those guys that, even before the Bo Nickel fight, he's obviously has an elite ground game, and he's got underrated striking, right? Obviously, he knocked out Bo Nickel. He almost knocked out Gerald Misha with one punch at the end of round 1. Like, he's tall. He's got a karate background as well, so he could do it. Right? Robert is very, very chinny, but I get why money's coming in on Robert, because, you know, Robert is going to be so much faster. The footwork, the stick and move. But, you know, the Reader is tall. The Reader is tall and he's awkward. Can he make Robert walk into something? Can he clinch him up? Can he drag him down? Robert is a little bit washed. You know, his wins. You look back at his wins, you know, Paulo Costa, looking okay now, but, you know, Vittori, Kevin Gastelum, Jared Cannonier almost got knocked out there. Darren Till couldn't beat Israel twice. You know, I can't get a read on this fight. So that's where we're at. We've got no totals, so I ain't going to bore you with that. Let me go through the comments and I'm going to get out of here. UFC loves Steven Wynn. This guy gets the best matchups. Well, he got the shit beaten out of him in his first matchup. So he's 0-1 in the UFC there, and he's a Dana White Contender Series guy. They already lost twice on Dana White Contender Series. So I think they're matching him up accurately, man. They're giving him his bottom of the barrel, and they're giving him bottom of the barrel matchups. Bryce first fight at 135. I agree with that. It's good. I think he needed to cut down. He didn't look very the right size at that weight. Hard to trust Krillo after last fight, but he should be able to sub him. Yeah, he was coming off a shoulder surgery there and a layoff. Generally, we see it all the time and time again. People perform better in the one fight after the big layoff, but again, his striking and defense has always been erratic. So again, I'll have to evaluate whether I like minus 200 on him. Head Ochoa plus 230 in my bet slip. Marcus barely beat that weasel. Peter should be able to take care of business. Yeah, I don't know, man. Nightmare matchup for Rene de Ryder. I mean, I agree, but again, Bo Nickel was a nightmare matchup, man. People were parlaying him. Some select few sharps. Again, I hate to glaze my bold friend Dogfather because he can be a cunt and can be annoying and cocky. But he was chasing that day with the Rita and he hit it, and that must have felt so good. But yeah, people said that was the nightmare matchup. He won't be able to take down Bo Nickel. Bo Nickel has power. The Rita's hittable, but we got to look past the first layer of obvious things sometimes. The Rita's super experienced. He's probably less washed than Whitaker. Hard to give RDR much of a path outside of meme. Again, I don't know about that, man. Don't know. Paul Blatt, thank you for giving me the confirmation bias that Fugi will get chinned. Was feeling hesitant. No worries, man. I've taped Fugit many times. I already made up my mind that he's chinny before he made his UFC debut. And some of those fights, it looks like he might not be in the UFC, but I think it's clear that he is. Bow striking is a joke. Correct. I agree with all these things. I agree. All right, that's it. Thanks, lads. Thanks for joining. I know it's probably late for everyone. Like and subscribe. Props to everyone if you hit your bets. I should have done better, but I'm happy with the profit, and we're going to do even better next week. Peace out.